On the night of the flash wedding, the disabled husband flirted with her until her legs went weak. Chengyuan, it hurts. Xia Yuxi's fingers clenched the bed sheet. Be good, it won't hurt soon. The man coaxed softly. A crazy night. The next day. Click. The sound of the belt buckled came to her ears. Xia Yuxi, who was lying on the bed, frowned and turned over. The tearing pain on her body made her face wrinkled. Chengyuan. She subconsciously called her husband's name. No response. The rustling sound continued to hit her cerebral cortex. Xia Yuxi opened her heavy eyelids and saw the light of dawn. There was no light in the huge hotel suite, and the light was dim. A tall man stood on the sofa 2 meters away from the big bed, with his back to her, putting on clothes. Judging from his movements, he should be buttoning his white shirt. The man was very tall, and there was a sense of oppression like a mountain just from his back. Xia Yuxi's brain suddenly buzzed, and she sat up from the bed. The movement was too big, and she pulled a wound somewhere, and her face turned pale with pain. But she didn't have the time to care about whether it hurt or not. Who are you? Her voice was shaking. When she woke up, her husband was not in the room, but this strange man was getting dressed in her room. Xia Yuxi felt like she was about to suffocate. The reason why she was sure that this man was not her husband Li Chengyuan was because her husband was disabled and could only use a wheelchair, but this man was standing straight. And the length of his long legs was amazing. The man paused while buttoning his clothes, and did not look back. After a few seconds of silence, he quickly walked to the door, took out the mask from the cloakroom, and put it on his face. As soon as his hand grasped the door handle, his waist suddenly tightened. Xia Yuxi had already run out of bed and grabbed his shirt tightly. Who are you? Why are you in my room? Where is Li Chengyuan? Where is he? The man's eyes were deep. He turned around, grasped her slender wrist, and raised his chin with a defiant degree. You don't even know where your husband is. How should I know? His tone was like that of a Chinese from M speaking Chinese from Z. Although his pronunciation was also correct, it was clear that he was not from Z. Let go. The man's palm was burning. As soon as his palm touched her skin, she couldn't help but shudder and struggled hard. Bang! The man stretched out his hand and pushed her domineeringly against the dressing mirror, pressing her legs with his knees and holding her wrists with both hands. She couldn't move immediately. What are you doing? Bastard! Go away! The man suddenly came close to her, and the strong masculine scent was overwhelming. Xia Yuxi's heartbeat accelerated unconsciously. She immediately struggled like a conditioned reflex, but was held down by him. She was a married woman, and a sense of shame came over her. She struggled even harder. But she was easily imprisoned by the man. TSK, you were very docile last night. But now it's like a little wild cat stretching out its claws. Xia Yuxi's brain buzzed when she heard this, and it crashed for a few seconds, and she even forgot to struggle. She raised her head and looked at the man in front of her. He was very tall, and she could only reach his Adam's apple barefoot. Under his short chestnut hair, the black mask covered 2/3 of his face, revealing his sexy and cold lips and firm chin. This face, like a huge black hole, makes people feel terrified. Xia Yuxi took a deep breath and smelled the faint and clear mint scent on him. The same scent as Li Chengyuan. She suddenly came back to her senses. What did you mean just now? Why are you in my room? Heh. The man laughed sarcastically. I mean the person who was in your bed last night was me. Chapter 2 A Hard Bite. What? Xia Yuxi's eyes widened, and her pupils contracted violently. You. Yesterday she and Li Chengyuan came to this 6-star hotel to attend a business reception. Unable to refuse, she drank a few glasses. She was not good at drinking and felt dizzy, so Li Chengyuan took her back to the room. Then they. But at this moment, the man told her that it was him who was in the bed last night. Xia Yuxi felt like the sky was falling. Although she was drunk last night, she clearly remembered that the person in the bed was her husband Li Chengyuan. Why did I become this strange man when I woke up? It's ridiculous. Mrs. Li, you were so cooperative last night, you're not going to blame me now, are you? But I didn't expect that Mrs. Li is still a virgin after a month of marriage. TSK, is your disabled husband not capable of that? The man looked at her with a half smile, his whole body exuding an unruly and ruffian nature. Xia Yuxi's eyes were bloodshot, and she was extremely angry. She broke free from his hand, jumped up, and tried to remove the mask from the man's face. "Who are you? You bastard! Who are you?" she screamed at the top of her lungs. The man easily grasped her wrist and squeezed it tightly, and the half-smile in his eyes was replaced by coldness. Xia Yuxi felt a chill running up her spine and she couldn't help but shiver. He lowered his head and bit Xia Yuxi's lips viciously. "Be good, not everyone can see my face." His voice was cold and full of warning. There was a sudden pain in my arm. Xia Yuxi was furious. She bit the man's arm with all her strength and soon smelled blood. There was a flash of annoyance in the man's eyes. He pinched the back of her neck and applied a little force. Xia Yuxi immediately let go in pain. The next moment, she was thrown to the ground by the man. Bang! Before she could react, the man had already opened the door and strode out of the room. Xia Yuxi sat on the ground, her whole body aching from the fall. The room was dim. Her senses gradually returned and tears began to fall. She had been married for just 1 month, and she actually gave her virginity to a strange man. Xia Yuxi didn't know how long she had been sitting on the ground. The sky gradually brightened. She looked at her watch and it was only 7 o'clock. It seemed that the man wanted to sleep with her and then run away, but he was caught by her. Bastard! Xia Yuxi gritted her teeth. If she sees him again, she will bite him to death. Just as Xia Yuxi was about to get up, she heard a ding-dong sound, and a cold and handsome face immediately appeared on the LCD TV in the living room. The man was sitting in a wheelchair, wearing a white shirt and black trousers. Although he was disabled, he still had a great temperament and exuded a cold aura. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle, making people dare not look directly at him. Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi was stunned for a moment. She quickly got up and tried to open the door. Her hand was on the door handle, but she pulled it back the next moment. She turned her head suddenly and saw kiss marks all over her body in the mirror. Her pupils shrank and she ran into the bedroom quickly. On the carpet, her dress was torn in two. Xia Yuxi gritted her teeth in embarrassment, quickly picked up the clothes and threw them into the trash can. The big bed was in a mess. She pulled back the quilt and saw a splash of bright red on the snow-white sheets. Her heart ached. Ding dong. The doorbell rang again. Chapter 3: Why Not Wear Shoes? She looked down at herself, then at the bed, and hurriedly pulled the quilt over the mark of humiliation, then quickly took out a nightgown from the closet and wrapped herself in it. Ding dong. She ran towards the big bed and wanted to confirm whether the bright red color was covered, and immediately heard a beep. The door was swiped open. Xia Yuxi's scalp went numb. The next moment, she heard the sound of a wheelchair rolling over the floor. She turned her head sharply. "Yuxi, why don't you open the door?" The cold voice came from far away. Xia Yuxi's back stiffened. She stood up straight and subconsciously wrapped her nightgown tightly around her. She lowered her head, not daring to look at Li Chengyuan, and stammered, "Chengyuan. I just woke up. I drank some wine and feel a little dizzy." She gripped her nightgown so tightly that her knuckles turned white, her palms were covered in cold sweat, and her heart almost jumped into her throat. Li Chengyuan had a cold face, but it was still so good-looking that it made people angry. He looked around sharply, then frowned unhappily. "The bed is so messy." His hands rested on the edge of the quilt. Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi's heart almost skipped a beat. It was too late for her to stop him. Li Chengyuan's long, bony fingers had already lifted the quilt. On the luxurious big bed, the sheets were wrinkled, and in the middle was a glaring blood flower, which was extremely gorgeous. Sweat began to appear on the tip of Xia Yuxi's small nose. Her face turned pale and she took a step back, almost falling to the ground. She slept with a strange man, and now her husband Li Chengyuan saw it with his own eyes. She is doomed. "Are you on your period?" Li Chengyuan looked at her. "Why are you still barefoot when you're on your period?" Huh. Xia Yuxi was stunned for a moment, looked at her feet, and subconsciously retracted her snow-white toes. The feeling at this moment was like coming from hell to heaven. Her heart was pounding and she nodded repeatedly, "Yes, it's early." As she said that, she quickly put on her slippers. She suppressed her thoughts and squatted down in front of Li Chengyuan. Only then did she have the courage to look at the man. "Chengyuan, you last night. After sending you back last night, I went out to meet a friend. It was too late when I came back, so I opened a new one," Li Chengyuan said. His face was grim. Oh, okay, you haven't washed up yet, I'll help you. As she spoke, Xia Yuxi lowered her eyes and reached out to hold Li Chengyuan's arm. Hiss. Li Chengyuan's arms shrank, he cried out in pain, and his eyes became even colder. Chengyuan, what's wrong with you? Xia Yuxi looked up at him. When she met his sharp eyes, she was frightened. Even though they had been married for a month, she still hadn't figured out her new husband's temperament. He always has a cold face, which makes people feel scared. Xia Yuxi comforted herself that he was disabled and it was normal for him to have quirks in his personality, and as his wife, she should be more tolerant of him. Li Chengyuan expressionlessly brushed her hand away. I've already washed it. My arm just had a cramp. Oh. Xia Yuxi stood up. Go change your clothes and let's go back. Li Chengyuan said. Well. There was blood on my clothes and I threw them away. Xia Yuxi looked at the trash can guiltily. Li Chengyuan glanced at her, without any suspicion, and immediately took out his cell phone and called his assistant Yukafe, send some clothes to their wife. After a pause, he added, and sanitary napkins. Xia Yuxi's cheeks flushed slightly, and she said, then Chengyuan, wait for me, I'll go wash up. Chapter 4, Is it wronged? Although Li Chengyuan is disabled and always has a cold face, he is very nice to Xia Yuxi. Xia Yuxi felt extremely guilty. Yeah. Li Chengyuan just nodded with a cold face. Even if he had a cold face, this face was still extremely handsome. Xia Yuxi pursed her lips and quickly ran to the bathroom. She took off her nightgown and looked at the kiss marks all over her body, wanting to cry but having no tears. But she didn't have time to care about too much at the moment, as Li Chengyuan was still waiting outside. She quickly took a shower to wash away all the scent left by that bastard. The assistant has delivered the clothes. It's a red 5/4 sleeve shirt and a pair of black trousers. Xia Yuxi buttoned the pearl buttons all the way to the top one, covering her beautiful collarbone and all the hidden marks. She bit her lip. It's better not to let me see you again. After changing clothes, she pushed Li Chengyuan to have breakfast. From the elevator to the restaurant, I heard a lot of whispers. That girl is so beautiful. I have never seen such a beautiful girl. Her facial features are so delicate. But it's a pity that she married a cripple. The man is also very handsome, okay? I have never seen such a handsome man. They are a perfect match. It would be great if the man was not disabled. Xia Yuxi frowned, and when she pushed Li Chengyuan to a seat, Li Chengyuan's face had already looked very ugly. Xia Yuxi went to bring coffee and food and placed them at Li Chengyuan's seat. Hey, beauty, you are so beautiful, why do you want to marry a cripple? Why don't you dump him and marry me? A yellow-haired man threw a coquettish glance at Xia Yuxi. Xia Yuxi turned around, glanced at the man, and said disdainfully, because even if my husband has a crippled leg, he is still 100,000 times better than a moron like you. TSK. The yellow-haired man waved his hand. He glanced at the cold eyes of the man in the wheelchair. He felt a chill down his spine and quickly stood up and slipped away. Seeing Xia Yuxi's attitude, the discussion stopped. Chengyuan, Xia Yuxi turned around and said softly, don't listen to their nonsense. Li Chengyuan stared at her. Don't you really feel it's unfair to marry a cripple like me? His eyes were cold and he pinched her chin with his fingers. Her skin was white and smooth and felt great to the touch. He applied a little force and her delicate chin deformed. Her rosy lips pouted slightly, like a silent invitation. Li Chengyuan felt his throat tighten, and a strange color flashed across his cold eyes, but he was still staring at her. The man's fingers were slightly cold, and his breathing was almost audible. Xia Yuxi's heartbeat quickened. She shook her head. No, Chengyuan, I haven't thought about it that way. Li Chengyuan stared at her beautiful face so close to him and quickly let go of his hand. That's the best. We are already married. You are mine in life and my ghost in death. He said coldly. I know. Xia Yuxi nodded. She sat down in her seat, and her disordered heartbeat slowly returned to normal. After breakfast, Li Chengyuan said, I have something to take care of. I'll have someone take you back. Xia Yuxi nodded obediently. She looked at Li Chengyuan's assistant Yukafe and said, take good care of Chengyuan. Yes. Yukafe nodded respectfully. Xia Yuxi left. Li Chengyuan kept looking at Xia Yuxi until her figure completely disappeared, then he withdrew his gaze. The car was driving smoothly in the traffic. Xia Yuxi leaned against the window with a vague look in her eyes. If it weren't for the dull pain in her body, she would have thought that losing her virginity to a stranger was just a dream. If Li Chengyuan knew about this, he would think that she was a playboy and despised him for his disability, right? Chapter 5 Don't Lie to Me. Xia Yuxi reached out and hit her head, and it felt like paste. Passing a pharmacy, she said, "Stop the car." Swish. The car stopped immediately. Xia Yuxi stared at the rearview mirror. "Wait for me, I want to buy something." "Yes." Xia Yuxi got off the car, went into the drugstore, and bought a box of birth control pills. Her cheeks felt slightly hot. "I have lived for 20 years and this is the first time I have bought this kind of medicine." She took the medicine directly at the pharmacy. Last night, she thought it was Li Chengyuan, and she was very accommodating, more than once. She absolutely could not have children. Xia Yuxi gritted her teeth, feeling extremely aggrieved. The vehicles and people coming and going on the street passed by her, and Xia Yuxi was a little dazed. In a blink of an eye, she has been married for a month. But she is still a junior student at S University in Nancheng, and will be a senior next semester. It's summer vacation now. It's incredible to think about it. She was in a trance when someone tapped her shoulder. She suddenly came to her senses and turned her head subconsciously. The man was wearing a sky blue shirt and black trousers, and had an upright posture. He was very tall, about 1.85 meters, with a slicked back hair. The summer sun shone on his young and handsome face, making it very dazzling. People coming and going were looking at him or Xia Yuxi. Both of them were outstanding in appearance, especially Xia Yuxi, who was absolutely stunning and attracted a lot of attention. When Xia Yuxi saw who was coming, a hint of anger appeared in her eyes, and she immediately turned and left. But his arm was held by that person. "Yuxi, don't be angry." Xia Yuxi paused but did not turn back. "Li Yining, let go of my hand." "Yuxi, please stop being childish, okay? I've explained to you that my family arranged for me to pursue Xu Yanting. I just want to rely on the power of the Zhuo family to get the inheritance rights. When I become the heir of the Li family, I will definitely kick Xu Yanting away." Ever since Xia Yuxi found out that he was pursuing Xu Yanting behind her back and unilaterally proposed to break up, he hasn't seen her for more than a month. "Heh." Xia Yuxi shook off his hand and sneered, "You can chase whoever you want. I don't care if you are so shameless, but you are out of the game with me, Xia Yuxi. Get as far away from me as possible." Li Yining looked at her with a sad look in his eyes. "Yuxi, I said before, I was just playing with other women, the one I love is you. I was born in a wealthy family like the Li family, I have no choice, but I swear, I will not let you down." Shameless. Xia Yuxi didn't expect that after she discovered his true identity, he would actually bring this matter up in the open. She was so angry that she raised her hand and slapped Li Yining hard. 5 finger marks immediately appeared on Li Yining's face. Xia Yuxi. Li Yining didn't expect that Xia Yuxi would dare to hit him. A hint of anger immediately rose in his dark eyes. He was about to step forward to grab Xia Yuxi's hand, but someone pushed his shoulder hard. "Who are you? What do you want to do with my wife?" The driver was just smoking a cigarette when he unexpectedly saw someone bullying Xia Yuxi. "This is outrageous." He immediately rushed over to protect Xia Yuxi. Li Yining staggered, then stood firm. He looked at the driver. "What did you say?" "What wife?" Xia Yuxi said expressionlessly. "Li Yining, I'm married." "Get married." Li Yining looked ridiculous. "Yuxi, you love me so much, how could you marry someone else? Don't lie to me." Chapter 6 Believe It or Not. Believe it or not. Xia Yuxi was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. She turned around and got into the luxury car parked on the side of the road. Li Yining wanted to chase after him, but was stopped by the tall and strong driver. "Don't bother my wife, or you'll be in trouble," the driver warned Li Yining. Li Yining stood on the street, watching the car drive away, his brows twisted into a shape. "Madam, are you okay?" The driver got in the car and looked at Xia Yuxi in the back seat. Xia Yuxi shook her head tiredly. "It's okay. She and Li Yining are completely over." From then on, there was only her husband Li Chengyuan in her life. The car drove all their way home. Xia Yuxi stood in the courtyard, slightly dazed. This is a newly built European-style villa with 3 floors, beautifully and luxuriously decorated. The garden in front of the gate is neatly trimmed by the gardener, and there are servants to take care of food, clothing, housing, and transportation. A month ago, Xia Yuxi couldn't even imagine such a life. A lot happened this summer. When she discovered that her boyfriend Li Yining had betrayed her, and her idle father owed high-interest loans from gambling, he went into hiding. Those people couldn't find him, so they went to the school to look for Xia Yuxi. Xia Yuxi had no money, so they were going to sell her to that kind of place, and then she was lucky enough to meet Li Chengyuan. Li Chengyuan saved her on the condition that she marry him. Then, she became Mrs. Li. In a blink of an eye, a month has passed. Apart from the villa and his name, she knew nothing about her new husband. Drop. Xia Yuxi was lost in thought when a horn pierced her eardrums. Her shoulders trembled. She turned around and saw Li Chengyuan's car approaching. She immediately stepped aside. The car stopped in front of her, the window rolled down, and Li Chengyuan's handsome face came into view. Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi smiled faintly. Why don't you go in? Li Chengyuan frowned. It was noon, the weather was hot, and the girl's cheeks were slightly red from the sun. Oh, I'll be right in. The car drove in, the door opened, the skateboard was lowered, and Li Chengyuan skillfully slid out of the car in his wheelchair. Xia Yuxi immediately stepped forward, stood behind his wheelchair, and put her hands on it. Yuki nodded respectfully. Boss, madam, if you have no other instructions, I will withdraw first. Li Chengyuan nodded. Yuki left. Li Chengyuan glanced sideways slightly, and Xia Yuxi immediately understood and pushed him into their hall. The decoration of their hall is extremely luxurious. The crystal chandelier is beautiful and elegant, and is illuminated by the sunlight refracted in the courtyard, making it colorful. Sir, madam. The housekeeper led 2 rows of servants standing in neat rows to wait for the 2 of them. Sir, madam, lunch is ready. The butler looked respectful. Xia Yuxi smiled and nodded, then pushed the expressionless Li Chengyuan to the restaurant. The table was filled with delicious delicacies, and the aroma was intoxicating. Xia Yuxi pushed Li Chengyuan to the main seat and then sat down opposite him. Where did you go this morning? Why did you come back so late? The man had a stern face and seemed a little angry. Xia Yuxi's hand holding the chopsticks paused. When she married Li Chengyuan, he specifically asked about her relationship status, and she told him truthfully that she had just broken up with her boyfriend. If he knew that she had met Li Yining today, would he be angry? After all her thoughts went through her mind, she said in a general way, I just wandered around outside. Chapter 7 Not now. The man glanced at her and said nothing more. Xia Yuxi's heart, which had been lifted up, finally returned to normal. After lunch, Xia Yuxi pushed Li Chengyuan back to the room. The room is very large and the decoration style is relatively cold and hard, with only 3 colors, black, white and gray, but it is also very beautiful. During this month, the 2 of them slept and woke up together. Xia Yuxi didn't think it was a big deal, but after what happened last night, her mood changed. In my heart, I always felt guilty towards Li Chengyuan and didn't dare to look him in the eyes. She ran to the cloakroom to get Li Chengyuan's bathrobe and placed it on the edge of the bed. Chengyuan, let me help you change into your pajamas. Li Chengyuan didn't respond, his handsome face remained stern. Xia Yuxi squatted down in front of the man, her white fingers climbed up to his collar, and she helped him unbutton his buttons one by one with a focused look. Li Chengyuan lowered his eyes and stared at her. The girl's skin was whiter than snow, and her eyelashes were curled like a small fan. Under her small nose, her lips were like flower petals, beautiful and tempting, making people want to kiss her. His long fingers involuntarily pinched her delicate chin. Xia Yuxi was concentrating on helping the man unbutton his shirt. When she unbuttoned the 3rd button and saw a small piece of his beautiful chest exposed, her heart beat faster involuntarily. The man suddenly grabbed her chin. She looked up at him, but before she could react, she was suddenly kissed. Xia Yuxi's eyes widened slightly, and she stood there in a daze, not daring to move. This was the first time Li Chengyuan kissed her. The first time since they got married. The man's kiss went from shallow to deep. Xia Yuxi stared at him, her heart pounding, not knowing how to react. Li Chengyuan kissed her deeper and deeper. He originally just wanted to kiss her, but as soon as he touched her, he lost his composure and reached out to pull the shirt buttons at Xia Yuxi's collar. He rudely tore off the pearl button, which fell to the floor with a loud thud. Then the second one. Xia Yuxi suddenly came to her senses, grabbed his wrist with one hand, and quickly grabbed his collar with the other hand, anxiously. Chengyuan. I. She stuttered, not knowing what she wanted to say. She also knew that she had no right to refuse Li Chengyuan, but her body was covered with traces left by a strange man. If Li Chengyuan saw it, what would happen? No. We must not let him see this. Xia Yuxi grabbed her collar and tightened her grip. Li Chengyuan's eyes, which were originally full of lust, immediately regained clarity. He stared at Xia Yuxi and asked, "Do you dislike me?" No, it's not convenient for me now. I just had my period. Xia Yuxi lowered her eyes, not daring to look into his sharp eyes. Since he misunderstood this morning, he might as well use this excuse again. Get up. Li Chengyuan took a deep breath and pulled her up from his legs. Xia Yuxi stood aside, feeling somewhat helpless, her fingers still tightly gripping her collar. Li Chengyuan picked up his bathrobe from the bed and slid his wheelchair to the bathroom. Soon, the sound of water splashing was heard in the bathroom. Without the man's negative atmosphere in the room, Xia Yuxi felt more at ease. Li Chengyuan quickly finished his shower and came out wearing a bathrobe. He is 25 years old this year. He became disabled in both legs when he was 15 and has been in a wheelchair for 10 years. He can do many things by himself, except that he cannot stand up. He is no different from ordinary people. He supported himself on the wheelchair with one hand and climbed onto the bed easily in a very nice posture. He pulled the thin quilt to cover himself and slowly closed his eyes. Chapter 8. Slow down. Xia Yuxi walked over, straightened the wheelchair, then walked to the wall and lowered the temperature of the central air conditioner by 1 degree. Chengyuan, then you take a nap and I'll go read a book. Xia Yuxi said. Li Chengyuan opened his eyes were cold, his sexy lips slightly parted, and he uttered 2 words, "Come here." Xia Yuxi was stunned. Usually, when Li Chengyuan took a nap, she would go to the study to read. Oh. She nodded in the end, then I'll change my clothes. Li Chengyuan did not respond, but slowly closed his eyes. Xia Yuxi quickly changed into a new shirt and buttoned every button. She also lifted her light brown curly hair in front of her to avoid showing the marks on her body if the shirt buttons suddenly popped open. Her hair could more or less cover it up. Xia Yuxi seldom wears a shirt because her bust is larger than normal and the buttons will open if she isn't careful. But she has no other clothes that can cover her collarbone, so she has to wear it like this. She walked to the TV cabinet and picked up the book, then climbed onto the bed and lay down next to the man. Li Chengyuan has a light and refreshing minty scent, which smells very nice. She opened the book. R. The man who had his eyes closed suddenly pulled her arm and hugged her. Xia Yuxi screamed in fear and the book in her hand rolled under the bed. Xia Yuxi's heart was beating like a drum, thinking the man was going to do something. However, the man just frowned, rested his head on her shoulder, buried his handsome face in her shoulder, and wrapped his long arms around her slender waist, using her as a human pillow. After a while, Xia Yuxi's heart was still beating wildly. From her angle, she could just see the man's straight and handsome nose. She turned around, carefully stretched out her arm, pressed the button to close the electric curtains, and the room fell into darkness. Xia Yuxi was half lying down, not moving. She could clearly hear her own heartbeat, which was out of rhythm. Somehow, why was Li Chengyuan so close to her today? Why don't you change into pajamas? The man rubbed his head against her shoulder, as if he felt uncomfortable with the material of the shirt. His voice was cold and critical. Xia Yuxi lowered her eyes to look at him. In the darkness, she could only see his rough outline. She said, "Well, I have my period, and I'm afraid I'll dirty the bed." After telling a lie, countless lies followed. She lay there, the man holding her, his breath brushing against her neck faintly, making her feel itchy, and her whole body was tense. She didn't know how long it had been, but the man in her arms began breathing evenly and she slowly fell asleep. In the darkness, Li Chengyuan slowly opened his eyes, reached out to unbutton 3 buttons of her shirt, and pulled it down. Then he lay on her skin as he wished. It was so soft, just like silk. He took a deep breath, his blood boiling. Wait a little longer. He silently told himself to give her some time to calm down. After the nap, Li Chengyuan was no longer in the room. I asked the housekeeper and learned that Li Chengyuan had already gone out. Xia Yuxi received a call from one of her good friends, Wang Shanshan, who asked her if her father's problem had been resolved and also invited her to go out for a chat. Xia Yuxi had nothing to do, so she made an appointment with her at the milk tea shop in front of the school. This summer vacation is particularly hot, with the temperature approaching 40 degrees Celsius. I feel like I'm being roasted. The driver dropped Xia Yuxi off 500 meters away from the milk tea shop. She walked this short distance in her high heels, and a thin layer of sweat had already appeared on her forehead. Chapter 9 I Can't Help You. Fortunately, she didn't wear any makeup, thus avoiding the embarrassment of ruining her makeup. Yuxi, here. As soon as she walked into the store, Wang Shanshan, who was sitting by the window, waved to Xia Yuxi hurriedly. It is summer vacation now and the students are all on vacation. There are not many people in the coffee shop, only sitting in groups of 3 or 4. It is obvious that several people are secretly looking at Wang Shanshan, and some are eager to come forward and ask for a phone number. Wang Shanshan is quite pretty. However, as soon as Xia Yuxi appeared, everyone's eyes immediately turned to her. Xia Yuxi wore a white dress, very simple and elegant. Her medium-length light brown curly hair was tied into a ponytail, revealing her full forehead. She was not wearing any makeup, but her lips were red and her teeth were white, which made her breathtakingly beautiful. If Wang Shanshan is an unknown little flower that is so beautiful that people want to kiss her, then Xia Yuxi is the red rose that is loved by everyone and is extremely beautiful. As soon as she appears, everyone else will be immediately outshined, from young to old, without exception. Wang Shanshan had a smile on her face, but she was secretly pinching her palms under the table. Shanshan, long time no see. Xia Yuxi sat down opposite her, ignoring everyone's glances, and ordered a glass of ice water. Wang Shanshan looked at her extremely beautiful face, her eyes twinkled, but she was smiling. Yuxi, didn't I ask you to introduce me to some handsome second-generation rich guys? Why haven't you done anything yet? There was a hint of anger in his tone. Xia Yuxi lowered her eyes silently. She picked up the ice water and took a sip. Then she looked at Wang Shanshan. Sorry, Shanshan, I can't help you. Wang Shanshan's biggest dream is to marry into a wealthy family. She hopes Xia Yuxi can introduce Li Yining's wealthy young men to her. She has said this many times. Why? Wang Shanshan immediately became excited. Xia Yuxi, why are you like this? I treat you as a friend, but what do you think of me? Is it difficult for me to ask you to introduce someone? You keep making excuses, which is really too much. Xia Yuxi lowered her eyes and said softly, Li Yining and I broke up. How is that possible? Wang Shanshan was confused. Yuxi, is it because of the number 1 socialite Zhui Yanting? Even you know about this? Xia Yuxi smiled. It turned out that it was already a well-known fact that she was cheated on. She didn't know if it was because the water was too cold, but her heart actually ached slightly. For 2 years, I was fed to dogs. Wang Shanshan frowned and cursed in her heart, so useless. Xia Yuxi took the ice water and drank it all in one gulp. That scumbag, he wants me to be his secret lover, is it possible? I, Xia Yuxi, would rather be single for the rest of my life than do such a disgusting thing. You are so stupid. Wang Shanshan blurted out. Silly. I think so too. Xia Yuxi pulled the corner of her lip in self-mockery. Li Yining once promised her that he would be together forever and that he would only love her for the rest of his life, and she actually believed it. So stupid. I mean, you were so stupid to reject Li Yining. Wang Shanshan said speechlessly. What's wrong with being a rich man's lover? It's better than struggling with a poor boy. You mean you are willing? Xia Yuxi looked at Wang Shanshan in astonishment. Wang Shanshan immediately changed her words. Of course not. She looked at Xia Yuxi, her eyes rolling around. She leaned close to Xia Yuxi and whispered, Yuxi, since you are all done, I advise you to go to the hospital. What do you mean? Xia Yuxi was puzzled. Go repair the hymen. Wang Shanshan said. She still has to coax Xia Yuxi. The Li family is not the only wealthy family in Nanchang. Xia Yuxi is so beautiful that she will definitely be favored by wealthy families in the future. By then, she can get what she wants by stepping on her. Chapter 10 Friends. Xia Yuxi's eyes widened, and she was silent for a while before she said, The most intimate thing between Li Yining and I is him kissing my forehead. There was indeed nothing between her and Li Yining. Only. Xia Yuxi clenched her hand holding the water cup slightly. Oh. Wang Shanshan obviously didn't believe it. As your best friend, I'm just reminding you. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. After saying that, Wang Shanshan picked up her bag and left. Now, Xia Yuxi is of little use to her. She will wait until Xia Yuxi finds the next big tree. Xia Yuxi stayed in the cafe alone for a long time. During this time, several boys came up to her and chatted with her, but she politely and decisively rejected them all. When Xia Yuxi walked in, it was dusk and Li Chengyuan was sitting in the living room watching TV. It is reported that Mr. Pei, the president of PT Group, one of the top 10 companies in the world, arrived in Nancheng yesterday. It is rumored that he plans to settle down in Nancheng. The mayor of Nancheng personally welcomed him, and many entrepreneurs have shown their goodwill to him. There are also rumors that Mr. Pei returned to China this time to marry Miss Xu Yanting, the most famous lady in South City. However, our reporter also photographed Miss Xu Yanting, who seemed to have a crush on young Master Li. Xia Yuxi stared at the huge LCD screen, her fingers involuntarily clenched into fists. She was filled with anger at the moment and could not hear a single word. The man on TV was surrounded by people like the moon surrounded by stars, but he had an indifferent look in his eyes and accepted the admiration of others as a matter of course. He naturally exuded the aura of a superior, making people willingly submit to him. He was wearing a black mask, had short chestnut hair, thin lips, and a perfect jawline. It was him. It was that bastard. Pei Teng, president of PT Group. No wonder that bastard is so arrogant. She was thinking that she would beat up that bastard when she saw him again, but she didn't expect his identity to be so shocking. How could she be his opponent? Is it possible that she can only swallow her anger and accept what happened last night? Xia Yuxi gritted her teeth, almost going crazy with anger. As Li Chengyuan listened to the report, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He turned off the TV, turned around, and saw Xia Yuxi's cheeks turned red with anger. "What's wrong?" he said in a flat voice. Xia Yuxi suddenly came back to her senses and stuttered in anger, Chengyuan, that man." Xia Yuxi thought of her humble status, and if she wanted revenge, she had to rely on Li Chengyuan. But although Li Chengyuan lived in such a luxurious villa, she didn't know what his identity was. But that bastard is the president of PT, one of the top 10 companies in the world. He is a well-known figure all over the world. When he comes to Nancheng, even the mayor has to receive him in person. You can imagine how powerful he is. Chengyuan will not be his opponent. She should not cause trouble for Chengyuan. She had already spent a lot of money to pay off the loan sharking for her useless gambling father. She would keep this matter to herself for the time being. In the end, Xia Yuxi was unwilling to give in and clenched her fingers tightly. "Him? Are you talking about PT President Pei Teng?" Li Chengyuan asked coldly. "Yeah." Xia Yuxi tried hard to keep herself calm, swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue, and nodded. "He just returned to China yesterday. He should be active in South City in the next few years. He is my friend and will come to my house tonight to hang out with me. You should stay out if you have nothing to do," Li Chengyuan said. It was as if he didn't notice anything unusual about Xia Yuxi at all. "Friend." Xia Yuxi felt like she was struck by lightning. She stood there in a daze, her beautiful eyes wide open in disbelief. Chapter 11. What to do? No wonder that bastard knew she was Mrs. Li. He was actually Chengyuan's friend, but he actually treated her. Xia Yuxi was about to collapse. Does this mean that she will most likely have to meet that bastard often in the future? Xia Yuxi couldn't help but shiver. What should she do now? He took the initiative to tell Li Chengyuan that his good friend did something to his wife last night. But if she told Chengyuan everything now, would he believe his wife, whom he had been married to for just 1 month, or his friend? Xia Yuxi looked at Li Chengyuan, her mouth open, words lingering on her lips. What? Is there a problem? The girl's lips were as beautiful as flower petals, slightly open. Although her face was full of surprise, it was full of endless temptation. Li Chengyuan tightened the fingers on his knees slightly. This face is so beautiful that I can't look at it for too long. He looked away. No, Chengyuan, I feel a little unwell and I won't have dinner. Xia Yuxi bit her lower lip and suppressed the words that were about to come out of her mouth again. They had only been married for a month and had no feelings for each other, so how could Chengyuan possibly trust himself? If she said it out loud, that bastard Pei Teng might turn around and accuse her of seducing him. It will be the end of us then. Yeah. Li Chengyuan looked indifferent. Xia Yuxi didn't know how she returned to her room. She sat on the carpet, feeling dazed and her mind in a mess. After an unknown amount of time, Xia Yuxi heard the sound of a car engine coming from the courtyard. She jumped up, opened the window, and stuck her head out to look down. The orange light shines on a luxurious car, making the light blurry. The servant opened the car door, and a man got out with an upright figure. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist, long legs, and a solid chest that was perfectly outlined by the black shirt, showing the beauty of strength. The black mask on his face added a bit of mystery under the cover of the night. The beautiful and delicate jaw is slightly raised, making it look more resolute. The whole person was glowing. When he stood there, everyone's eyes would involuntarily look at him, even though he didn't even show his face. Yukufei nodded respectfully. Mr. Pei, long time no see, the boss is waiting for you in the study. Yeah. The man responded casually, raised his eyes slightly and looked towards the second floor, which happened to be Xia Yuxi's window. His eyes were deep, buried in the black mask, like a dangerous whirlpool, hiding the energy that could overturn the world, making people dare not look at him. Seeing that the man looked like a beast and even the maids were staring at him infatuatedly, Xia Yuxi was so angry that she grabbed the window frame tightly, her knuckles turned white and painful. Asshole, she gritted her teeth. I really want to rush down and bite him to death right now. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly looked up at me. Xia Yuxi was stunned, her heart pounding. She immediately squatted down and hid herself behind the curtains. After going through a series of actions, a thin layer of sweat appeared on her forehead. There's a sense of embarrassment and fear as if you were court peeping. She squatted there, her mind in a mess, and she was angry at herself for not daring to look that bastard in the eye. She wasn't the one who did anything wrong. Xia Yuxi felt angry and depressed, but there was nothing she could do. She was upset. After several minutes, she dared to stand up, but she pulled the curtains and slowly stuck her head out. There was no one there, only the orange light shining on the car, flashing. Xia Yuxi turned around, her back against the wall, feeling confused. Chapter 12. Are you peeping at me? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? She kept muttering, but her mind was like a paste and she couldn't think at all. I don't know how long it took. She sat down on the carpet, folded her arms, leaned her head against the glass, and her eyes were confused. Click. The sound of the door lock clicking was unusually clear in the silent room. Xia Yuxi was immersed in her own messy thoughts and didn't hear it. By the time she became aware of it, a tall figure had completely enveloped her, and an invisible sense of oppression was overwhelming her. There was no light on in the room. It was dusk outside the window. Only the street lights outside cast a few rays of light in. I could vaguely see a figure, but I couldn't see it clearly. Xia Yuxi was sitting, and the man was standing, so tall that she was startled. Who are you? Who allowed you to enter my and Chengyuan's room? Only the cleaning maid can enter her and Li Chengyuan's room. Judging from the figure of the person in front of him, he is obviously a man, and a tall and straight man. But the powerful aura emanating from the man made her feel unsure. The servants in the villa definitely don't have the guts to do this, unless... Were you peeking at me just now? Just as Xia Yuxi was thinking, a man's voice sounded, with the tone of a person from country M speaking country Z. His deep voice was filled with laughter, and he seemed very happy. Hearing the voice, Xia Yuxi felt a chill down her spine. Her shoulders shrank, and she jumped up from the ground and wanted to run. Bang! The man put one hand on the glass, blocking her way. Xia Yuxi turned her head. Bang! The man's other arm was also resting on the glass, and Xia Yuxi was trapped between his chest and the glass wall. Xia Yuxi was horrified, and subconsciously crossed her arms, her back pressed tightly against the glass, but she tried to remain calm, her eyes cold. I'm telling you, Pei Teng, this is in my house. Chengyuan is outside. How dare you mess around? Heh. The man pinched her chin with his slender fingers and chuckled. You know who I am so quickly. The man's fingers were so hot that it felt like fire was burning her jaw. Xia Yuxi pushed his hand away and gritted her teeth. Last night, I was the one who suffered last night. Can you just pretend that nothing happened? After all, you are Chengyuan's friend. Xia Yuxi was in great pain. Chengyuan was disabled and had a strange personality. He was very suspicious. That morning, those people in the restaurant just casually said that it was a pity for her to marry him, so he asked her if she felt wronged. If he knew that she was sleeping with his good friend, he would be furious. Besides, his disability itself is pitiful, and if his wife knew about it, it would be simply cruel for him. Pretend nothing happened. Madam Li, I want to wash my hands of it completely after you fall asleep. Do you think I, Pei Teng, are so easy to fool? The man pinched her chin again, using some force with his fingers. Xia Yuxi felt pain and pushed his arms hard with both hands, but the strength difference between men and women was too great, so how could she be his opponent? Trying to push him away but failing, Xia Yuxi was so angry that her eyes turned red. Let go, you bastard. The man stared at her angry face, suddenly grabbed her slender wrists and pressed them against his chest, then pressed over and pressed his thin lips against hers. Xia Yuxi opened her eyes wide, her eyes full of resistance and anger. Her hands could not move, and her legs were pinned down, so she screamed irrationally, let go. Chengyuan or. Chapter 13. It depends on your performance. The man covered her lips to prevent her from making any sound. He pursed the corners of his lips, which still retained the sweetness of the girl. Well. Xia Yuxi looked at him in humiliation, her eyes turned red and tears rolled down her eyes. She looked so pitiful. Her tears dripped onto the man's fingers, burning hot, which softened the man's heart. His hand loosened, but he still didn't let her go. What are you shouting for? You called Li Chengyuan to tell him that I molested you? If I tell him that you seduced me because you disliked his disability, do you think he would believe you or me? There are so many women who want to get into my bed. What do you think? The corners of the man's lips curled up in a playful, somewhat ruffian way. Xia Yuxi's tears flowed even more violently, and her mouth was covered so she couldn't make any sound. The man frowned as he looked at her aggrieved expression. He loosened his hand and took a step back. Xia Yuxi seemed to have lost her support and instantly slid to the carpet. She gritted her teeth, clenched her fists, and trembled slightly. She raised her eyes and looked at the man with extreme hatred and helplessness. She hated him so much, but she couldn't do anything about him. The man lowered his eyes to look at her. His eyes were so deep that it was impossible to tell his emotions. He said nothing, turned around and left. He had just walked to the door and put his fingers on the door handle when he heard Xia Yuxi's voice behind him. Pei Teng, I have never disliked Chengyuan. He saved me, and I am grateful to him and respect him. I hope you will let me go. No matter how many women want to climb into your bed, I, Xia Yuxi, will not be among them. I am a married woman, not that lowly. Her voice was hoarse and filled with humiliation. After a pause, she continued, I hope you will never forget what happened last night. You are Chengyuan's friend. If he knew, he would be so sad. Please don't tell him. The man turned around and looked at the girl huddled under the glass wall. He felt strange and asked, Are you feeling sorry for Li Chengyuan? You are too cruel. Xia Yuxi roared. He knew Chengyuan was disabled, and that she was Mrs. Li, but he still. Oh, the man curled his lips noncommittally, his whole body exuding a rogue and bad character. Do you want me to let you go? It depends on my mood and your performance. Click. The man opened the door and left. It depends on my mood and your performance. Xia Yuxi felt as if she was in an ice cellar. She hugged her arms and trembled. Devil. She jumped up, ran into the bathroom, turned on the faucet, dipped a towel in water, and rubbed her lips vigorously. Thinking of the kiss she had just received from a man, she rubbed her lips harder, as if she wanted to erase all traces. She didn't stop until her lips turned red and burned with pain. Xia Yuxi raised her eyes and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red, like a little wife who was being bullied. She gritted her teeth. No, I can't be bullied like this. Li Chengyuan returned to the study, closed the door, took off the black mask on his face, and pulled his collar. He turned his head and the wall clearly reflected his handsome face. Yes, he is Pei Teng. He is both Pei Teng and Li Chengyuan. He stared at his own face in a trance. After a while, he walked to the sofa and sat down, took out a bottle of whiskey from the wine rack beside him, poured a glass, and drank it in one gulp. He unbuttoned his cuffs and pulled up his sleeves, revealing a circle of teeth marks on his arm. The bite marks were bleeding and the wounds had already scabbed over. It won't get better in a short while. Chapter 14. Allergies. Li Chengyuan slid his wheelchair into the room and saw Xia Yuxi sitting cross-legged on the sofa in a black nightgown. She was wrapped tightly with only her head and hands exposed. She was holding an iPad in her hand and looking at something intently. Her mood has calmed down. When she heard the sound, she immediately dropped her iPad. Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi quickly ran to the door and pushed Li Chengyuan to the bed. Her hands pressed on Li Chengyuan's shoulders skillfully. Chengyuan, are you tired? I'll help you change your clothes, you go take a shower. Go to bed early. Her voice was very gentle, like a feather gently brushing across the heart, as if it could soothe all the pain. Li Chengyuan held her hand and asked her to squat in front of him. He pinched her chin with his other hand and lifted it slightly. What's wrong with your mouth? Why is it so red? He only noticed it now. Her lips, which were originally very beautiful, were abnormally red and swollen. He only kissed her for a few seconds and didn't hurt her. Xia Yuxi's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. She immediately lowered her long eyelashes like a small fan and said guiltily, maybe I'm allergic. It hurts a little. Li Chengyuan looked at her drooping eyelashes and gently stroked her lips with his fingertips. Does it hurt? The man's fingers were cool, but it seemed like an electric current was flowing across his lips. Xia Yuxi couldn't help but blush. She looked up at him and shook her head. Not bad. Li Chengyuan looked into her beautiful eyes, which had red bloodshot on the whites of her eyes. After he left, she probably cried for a long time. He pulled her and made her sit on his lap. Xia Yuxi sat obediently, her hands on his shoulders. She glanced at him, then lowered her eyes again because she felt guilty. At this moment she was as gentle as a rabbit, unlike the stubborn and strong character just now. Li Chengyuan lowered his eyes to look at her lips. They were swollen, probably because she had rubbed them hard with a towel or something. What a silly girl. Chengyuan, The man kissed her lips. She tasted the whiskey on his lips. The hand pressing on his shoulder couldn't help but tighten, but she didn't hide. She slowly closed her eyes, and her eyelashes trembled. Li Chengyuan opened his eyes and looked at her obedient appearance, then put his arms around her slender waist. The blood in his body was burning. Her lips were so red and swollen. In the end, he just kissed her lightly for a few seconds and restrained himself from letting her go. Tell the servant to bring up some ointment and apply it on it. Xia Yuxi's heart was pounding. It was the first time Li Chengyuan kissed her at noon, and now it was the second time. They had been married for a month, and somehow he had the urge to touch her today. Seeing that she lowered her eyebrows and did not respond, Li Chengyuan frowned, his tone full of impatience. Oh, Xia Yuxi immediately came back to her senses and shook her head. No, I'll just put on some lipstick. It's not a true allergy, no medication is needed. Li Chengyuan held her hand tightly. The girl's body was very soft and had a light fragrance that smelled very good. Can't bear to let go. He raised his eyes and glanced at the sofa. What were you looking at just now? Xia Yuxi turned her head and paused before she said truthfully, I'm looking at anti-wolf spray, the kind that you can carry with you. I want to buy some and carry it with me. The corners of Li Chengyuan's lips twitched slightly. On the surface, there was no sign of it. What are you buying it for? He asked coldly. The tone of his voice had always been the same, so Xia Yuxi naturally didn't notice anything unusual. Well, it seems that the security in South City has been bad recently, so I bought it for self-defense. Xia Yuxi said. She lowered her eyes full of resentment. Peitang, that bastard, if he dares to cross the line again, she will not forgive him. Xia Yuxi, is not a woman who will just accept things as they come. Chapter 15. What are you nervous about? Oh. Li Chengyuan responded, push me to the bathroom. Okay. Xia Yuxi quickly got up. She got up too quickly and felt dizzy. In an instant, she fell back onto Li Chengyuan's lap. I'm sorry, Chengyuan. She quickly stood up again, turned behind Li Chengyuan, and held the wheelchair with both hands. Li Chengyuan didn't react, and Xia Yuxi immediately pushed him into the bathroom. She ran back to get his bathrobe and hung it aside. She squatted down, put her fingers on his collar and helped him unbutton his clothes. Li Chengyuan looked at her focused little face, his eyes slightly deep. Girls are really charming when they are gentle and obedient. He held her hand and said, go out, I can do it myself. Oh, okay. Xia Yuxi stood up slowly, call me if you need anything. So long-winded. Li Chengyuan frowned. Xia Yuxi hurried out and closed the door. The door closed, Li Chengyuan stood up from the wheelchair, and smiled, slow down. Xia Yuxi stepped out and immediately returned to the sofa. She selected several anti-wolf sprays, placed an order, paid, and the corners of her lips curled up. If Pei Ting dares to come again, he will definitely suffer the consequences. Snort. She dropped her iPad, jumped off the sofa to light some incense, and put some lipstick on her lips. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the closed door of the bathroom. Li Chengyuan was responsible for washing, shampooing and bathing himself, and he never let Xia Yuxi get involved. Fortunately, the bathroom was tailor-made for him, so he won't have any major problems using it. But as long as he was in the bathroom, she would basically wait outside the door in case of any emergency. Fortunately, nothing has happened for more than a month. As she was thinking, the bathroom door opened with a slight sound. She quickly ran over, pushed Li Chengyuan to the edge of the bed, and lifted the quilt on one side. Li Chengyuan leaned on his arms and lay on the bed, slowly closing his eyes. The man was half lying on the bed with long slender legs. His black nightgown made his handsome face look even whiter. The orange light sprinkled on him. The whole scene was as beautiful as a painting. Xia Yuxi looked at him, her heart beating wildly, and her eyes dimmed instantly when they fell on his long legs. It would be great if Chengyuan's legs were fine. But, if he wasn't disabled, with his face and the fact that he lived in such a luxurious villa, it would never be her turn since she was penniless. Just like Li Yining, who keeps saying how much he loves me, but ends up going and courting the number one socialite Xu Yanting. Men are realistic. They can play with many women, but the one they want to marry must be of equal social status. Xia Yuxi smiled bitterly. Just then, her eyes met Li Chengyuan's suddenly opened eyes. His eyes were sharp, and she was startled and at a loss for a moment. "Aren't you going to sleep yet?" he asked. "Oh, he went to sleep." Xia Yuxi quickly turned off the lights and closed the curtains, leaving only a dim wall lamp on. She lay down on the other side of the bed, pulled the quilt over herself, and then unbuttoned her nightgown, which was wrapped tightly around her. She sewed it herself. The original neckline was too wide. "Come over." The man's arms reached out to her. Xia Yuxi quickly crawled over and lay down in his arms, her hands clenched together helplessly. "Why are you so nervous?" Li Chengyuan pulled her hand and put it around his waist. Xia Yuxi shrank her hand but didn't take it back. The waist under her palm was thin and without any fat, and her cheeks couldn't help but blush again. Chapter 16. Do you care about him? Go to sleep. I've been very busy lately and am basically not at home. Call me if you have anything. Li Chengyuan suddenly said lightly. Where is your friend Pei Ting? Xia Yuxi almost blurted out. Chengyuan is not at home and the anti-wolf spray she bought has not arrived yet. What should she do if that bastard comes to harass her again? He is so bold even when Chengyuan is at home, if he is not here. A chill ran up Xia Yuxi's spine. Do you care about him a lot? Li Chengyuan asked coldly. No, I was just asking casually. Chengyuan, please don't misunderstand. Xia Yuxi hurriedly explained. He slept in the guest room tonight. Li Chengyuan said lightly. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt the girl in his arms tremble noticeably. In the darkness, he curled the corners of his mouth. Did he leave a psychological trauma on her? Chengyuan, is it okay for me to go back to my mother's house and stay for a few days? Xia Yuxi said nervously. Wait until she gets the pepper spray and comes back. Li Chengyuan, this shadow is still a bit big. After a pause, he said, No. You can go back to your parents' home, but you must come back to stay at night. I'm very busy these days. When I'm done, I'll visit your mother. They just got married and got the marriage certificate, and Xia Yuxi's parents didn't know about it. I see that they are not in a hurry, but Xia Yuxi bit her lip, not knowing what to say. Do you think it's inconvenient to have strangers in your house? Li Chengyuan asked. Yeah. Xia Yuxi nodded quickly. Pei Ting is only staying tonight and will leave early tomorrow morning. He is busier than I am, and people from all over South City are lining up to see him. He has a lot of people to meet, so it's not convenient for him to stay in our house. I won't let him stay. Li Chengyuan reassured her. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt the girl's tense body in his arms relax. In the darkness, he curled the corners of his lips. Xia Yuxi breathed a sigh of relief in her heart, paused, and then said, Oh, it's okay, he is your friend, it's only natural for him to come and stay. I will go home in a few days and will be back in the evening. It's my mother's home. Li Chengyuan corrected her. Yes, my mother's home. Xia Yuxi agreed. Li Chengyuan slowly closed his eyes, turned sideways, put his long arms around the girl's waist, and rested his head on her shoulder. His breath faintly sprinkled on the girl's neck. The girl's body tensed for a moment, and when she saw that he didn't make any other movements, she relaxed. The next day, when Xia Yuxi got up, Li Chengyuan was no longer in the room. She washed up and went downstairs, and asked the maid casually, "Where is the master?" "The master just left not long ago." The maid replied. "Where is Mr. Pei who came to visit yesterday?" Xia Yuxi asked again. "He left very early. When I knocked on the door, the room was empty," the maid said again. "Oh." Xia Yuxi responded lightly, but she was completely relieved in her heart. Li Chengyuan has been really busy these days, leaving home early and coming back late. The only time they can talk to each other is before going to bed. His brows are full of fatigue, and Xia Yuxi feels sorry for him. Although Chengyuan is disabled, he is not depressed. He has his own job and is meticulous, serious and dedicated in his work. This makes Xia Yuxi respect him and even admire him a little. What's the point of being like a fish in water in good times? To live brilliantly in bad times is a real skill. People with high adversity quotient are 1 in a million. A few days later, Xia Yuxi returned to the Xia family. Chapter 17. Why is there only so little money? The Xia family lives in a dilapidated community in the west of South City. Due to its age, the walls have turned from their original white to grayish white, the iron windows are rusted, and it is a house with stairs. The Xia family lives on the 7th floor, the top floor. Xia Yuxi walked into the community carrying her bag, and the uncles and aunts greeted her. "Yuxi is back. Girl, are you okay? Some time ago, a lot of people came to ask for money. I heard that your father owed a loan shark. Those people didn't harass you, did they? Your dad is such a worry. Yuxi, you are so beautiful, but no one dares to propose marriage to you. Isn't it because they are afraid of your gambling father?" Xia Yuxi chatted with them for a few words, then went up the stairs. When she reached the 7th floor, she took out her key and opened the door. She was about to enter the door when someone suddenly grabbed the bag in her hand. The fruits she bought also fell all over the floor. Xia Yuxi was startled and turned her head to see a skinny middle-aged man with a cigarette in his mouth, who was grabbing her bag and rummaging through it. "Dad." Xia Yuxi looked embarrassed. "Where's the money? Why is there only this little money? What's the point of me raising you to this age?" Xia Zhenxing grabbed the more than 1,000 yuan in Xia Yuxi's bag and cursed. "Xia Yuxi, Dad, I'm still a student, where do I get the money from?" Xia Zhenxing, "No money. If you don't have money, you don't know how to sell it." Xia Zhenxing, "You damn thing. Who asked you to come back?" Mother Xia heard the noise and came out of the bedroom. She was wearing a plaid pajamas, her hair was messy, her face was round and her complexion was sallow. She was less than 1.6 meters tall, but her weight was as high as her height. The loose pajamas were stretched tightly by her barrel waist. When Xia Zhenxing saw Xia's mother coming out, he immediately dropped Xia Yuxi's bag and ran away. "You bastard! How dare you take Yuxi's bag? I'll kill you!" Mother Xia's angry voice echoed throughout the corridor. Xia Zhenxing had already run away. "Oh, my dear daughter, why are you back?" When Xia's mother saw Xia Yuxi, her ferocious face just now was filled with a kind smile. "Mom, I came back to see you." Xia Yuxi picked up her bag and the fruit on the ground and went into their house with her mother. This is a 2-bedroom apartment, it's small and messy. There were clothes thrown all over the sofa, empty wine bottles on the coffee table, cigarette butts all over the floor, and a choking smell in the air. Xia Yuxi found herself with her hands and almost choked and coughed. As soon as he put down the bag, he bent down to pick up the cigarette butts on the ground. "Oh, my dear daughter," Mother Xia rushed forward and grabbed Xia Yuxi, "how can you do these rough jobs? You are going to marry into a wealthy family and become a young lady in the future. Your hands must be beautiful, white and clean." As she spoke, Mother Xia pulled Xia Yuxi into her little room and let her sit on the pink sofa. Don't be fooled by the messy outside, Xia Yuxi's room is small but very beautiful. The walls are painted pink, the sheets and quilt covers are all pink, there is a Hello Kitty dressing table, and a comfortable sofa. There are many beautiful dolls placed at the head of the bed. It is a true princess room. Our door separates two worlds. Mom, I'm not that precious. Xia Yuxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You have to be dignified. Have you ever seen a young lady who cleans her own house? My daughter, your mother is counting on you. Everyone says that you are so beautiful and you will definitely marry well in the future. You have to save your mother's face by not dating a poor boy in school. Do you hear me? Especially for your first time, you absolutely cannot give it to a poor man easily. Xia Yuxi's face turned pale. Mother Xia was terrified when she saw this. She held her hand tightly and said, "Baby, who did you give your first time to?" Huh. Chapter 18. It's time to be disappointed. No, Mom, how could I? You have always taught me that I wouldn't dare. Xia Yuxi put her arms around her waist and lowered her eyes guiltily. Her mother had high expectations of her. If she knew that she and Chengyuan were married, she would be disappointed. Chengyuan is a very good person, but in the eyes of normal people, Chengyuan is incomplete. That's good, Mother Xia patted her chest, and she was terrified. She repeatedly warned, "My dear daughter, don't be silly. Those poor boys are used to saying sweet words to trick little girls like you. You must not be fooled." Mom, I understand. Xia Yuxi's ears were almost calloused from hearing these words. Okay, I'll stop nagging. My dear daughter is so smart. Mother Xia touched Xia Yuxi's head carefully, as if she was touching some rare treasure. Mom, are you and Dad doing well these days? Xia Yuxi asked. It's okay. It's your damn father who owes a lot of money. Those people came to find me, and I managed to run away with great difficulty. I don't know why they didn't come later. Mother Xia said, gritting her teeth. Xia Yuxi drooped her eyelashes. It seems that Mom doesn't know that Dad asked those people to go to school to find her, otherwise, she would be furious. By the way, my dear daughter, didn't you find a part-time job? Have you finished it? Then you can rest at home for a few days. Mom will make you your favorite tomato fish soup, as well as spare ribs and chicken legs. Mother Xia said with a smile. In the past, Xia Yuxi would work outside every summer vacation as a hostess to earn some money. This year, the situation changed. She suddenly married Li Chengyuan. He didn't let her sell her labor and said domineeringly, "You are more than enough to support 10 people." Only then did Xia Yuxi have some free time. No, Mom, I only have one day off today. I have to go back in the afternoon. Xia Yuxi said. She also wanted to stay at home for a few days, but Li Chengyuan wouldn't let her. Are you in such a hurry? If being a hostess didn't give you a better chance to meet rich people, I wouldn't let you suffer. My daughter, you have lost weight. Mother Xia touched Xia Yuxi's cheek. It's good to be thin and beautiful. My baby is so beautiful, much more beautiful than any female star. Mom, it's not that exaggerated. Xia Yuxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How is it exaggerated? My daughter is just beautiful. Xia's mother said confidently. Mother Xia chatted with Xia Yuxi for a while, cleaned the living room quickly, and went out to buy groceries. Xia Yuxi wanted to accompany her, but she wouldn't let her. Baby, which young lady is going to the vegetable market? Be good, stay at home and watch TV. Mom will be back soon. At noon, Xia's mother prepared a large table of delicious food for Xia Yuxi. Xia Yuxi wanted to help with the cooking, but her mother refused to let her. Oil fumes harm the skin, she said. Xia Yuxi was particularly satisfied. Although her family was poor and her father was not very good, her mother loved her very much. She is happy. Xia Yuxi had dinner at home before going back. Li Chengyuan hasn't come back yet. He is so busy. For several days, Xia Yuxi didn't see Li Chengyuan. Afternoon. Xia Yuxi had nothing to do, so she took out her iPad to read the news from South City. I never thought that the entire page would be filled with Pei Ting's reports. When Xia Yuxi saw Pei Ting's name, she felt so angry that her teeth itched. She also learned Pei Ting's specific information from the news. Pei Ting, 25 years old this year, is the fifth son of the Pei family, the first family in Wei City, Country M. He is the founder and president of the PT multinational group and one of the top 10 outstanding people under 30 years old in the world. In short, he has countless halos and is the kind of big man who stands at the top of the pyramid and looks down on all living beings. He is shining brightly and everyone worships him. Under every piece of news about him, a bunch of girls shouted that they wanted to give birth to babies for him, and said that looking at his jawline, he would be very handsome without the mask. Xia Yuxi sneered and took a big bite of the apple in her hand. So handsome. Without the mask, he must be an ugly freak. He is so vicious because he looks ugly. As she was speaking, Xia Yuxi heard the sound of the door being pushed open. Chapter 19 Scar on the Arm. She looked up and saw Li Chengyuan sliding his wheelchair in. She was surprised. It's just past 5 in the afternoon, and Li Chengyuan has returned so early today. Chengyuan. Actions were faster than thoughts. Xia Yuxi had already put down the apple and mobile phone in her hands and walked in front of Li Chengyuan. Hum. The man snorted. Xia Yuxi approached him and immediately smelled the mellow aroma of alcohol. When she looked closely, she saw that the man's cheeks were also red. Have you been drinking? Li Chengyuan used his long fingers to pull the tie around his neck, but failed to pull it off and instead made his neck red. Don't move. Xia Yuxi was startled and quickly held his hand, helping him take off his tie smoothly, then unbuttoning his collar, and gently rubbed the red marks on his neck caused by the tie. Chengyuan, I'll have someone prepare some hangover tea. You take a rest. As Xia Yuxi was speaking, the man stretched out his arms and she sat on his lap. If you get too close, the aroma of the wine will be stronger. Moreover, the man's body was hot. Even through her suit pants, Xia Yuxi could feel the scorching heat. Chengyuan. The posture of the two at this moment was really ambiguous. Xia Yuxi put her hand on his shoulder and looked at him helplessly. Li Chengyuan drank some wine today, so his breathing was a little heavy. He looked at the little face close to him, reached out and pinched her chin, and said in a low voice, "Is your period over?" "Many days." Huh. Xia Yuxi was confused and didn't react to what he meant for a moment. Li Chengyuan pulled her face closer, lowered his head and kissed her on the lips. The girl's lips were so soft, and there was a faint fruity fragrance that made people intoxicated. He kissed her, pulled away, and then kissed her again, and again. Hum. Xia Yuxi looked at him with her beautiful eyes. When she thought of what he had just said, her head immediately buzzed. Could it be that Chengyuan meant? Wait a moment. Xia Yuxi gently pushed Li Chengyuan away. What will Li Chengyuan think if he finds out that this is not her first time? What? Li Chengyuan frowned unhappily. Xia Yuxi lowered her head, her fingers tightly pinching the shirt on the man's shoulders, wrinkling it, and she stuttered, I'm not ready yet. Yuxi, we have been married for more than a month, what else do you want to prepare? He asked. Xia Yuxi was immediately speechless. He lifted a corner of the quilt, lie down. Xia Yuxi wanted to say something, but when she saw him frowning impatiently, she immediately shut up. She stood up from his legs and reluctantly sat down against the bed. Lie down. Li Chengyuan repeated, his tone a little heavier. Xia Yuxi frowned, made up her mind, lay down on the bed and made room for him. Li Chengyuan's eyes deepened. He reached out and pressed the button beside the bed. The electric curtains slowly closed. There was no light on in the room, and it was instantly plunged into darkness. While kissing her, the man took off his white shirt, exposing his muscular upper body in the darkness. Xia Yuxi was really nervous. Her hand unconsciously reached out to grab Li Chengyuan's arm, but she felt a shallow scar on Li Chengyuan's arm. Scar? Xia Yuxi suddenly opened her blurry eyes. Chengyuan was injured. Why is there a scar on his arm? For some reason, Xia Yuxi's mind unconsciously emerged the scene of her biting Pei Ting's arm that morning. Chengyuan, your hand. Xia Yuxi's voice was broken by Li Chengyuan's kiss. Li Chengyuan held her hand, squeezed his fingers into hers, interlocked their fingers, and pressed them on the quilt. What's wrong with my hand? He said in a hoarse voice. Li Chengyuan was a little drunk and impatient. While kissing Xia Yuxi, he reached behind her to pull the zipper of her skirt. Soon, he took off her skirt. Chapter 20 It hurts, it hurts. Li Chengyuan's kiss almost made Xia Yuxi sink, and she soon became unable to think. The temperature in the room rose steadily. However, Li Chengyuan's fingers that were causing trouble suddenly stopped. His long fingers touched the wet sheets, and he pulled his hand back, and the air was immediately filled with the smell of blood. He gritted his teeth, let go of Xia Yuxi, turned on the light, and sure enough, he saw a faint trace of blood on his fingers. He glanced at the blushing girl and said, "You're having your period." Huh. Xia Yuxi opened her eyes upon hearing that. Her beautiful big eyes were filled with confusion as she stared at him blankly. All of Li Chengyuan's thoughts disappeared without a trace, and he even sobered up a little. Didn't you just have your period a few days ago? Xia Yuxi's eyes widened slightly, and she came to her senses. She reached out and touched the hem of her skirt, and her face immediately turned red. Chengyuan. She propped herself up with her hands and tried to get up, only to find that her skirt had been mostly removed. She immediately lay down in embarrassment, pulling the quilt to cover herself, her face as red as a cooked shrimp. Xia Yuxi quickly put on her clothes, climbed out of bed, and said, Chengyuan, I'll ask someone to change the sheets right away. I'm sorry, I. Go and sort yourself out. Li Chengyuan said with a frown. Xia Yuxi ran to the cloakroom to get some clean clothes, then hurried into the bathroom. She tidied herself up, looked at the dirty clothes in the basket, and bit her lip in embarrassment. How embarrassing. Xia Yuxi took several deep breaths and prepared herself mentally before opening the bathroom door and walking out. There was only a dim wall lamp in the room. The maid was just going out with a changed quilt in her arms, and she closed the door respectfully. Very quiet. Xia Yuxi glanced sideways and saw Li Chengyuan lying on the bed with his eyes closed, as if asleep. She tiptoed to the bedside and stared quietly at the man's sleeping face. Each of his facial features was as delicate as an artist's most proud work of art, and when combined on a face, it was even more stunning. Xia Yuxi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. In the past, she thought her ex-boyfriend Li Yining was incredibly handsome, but compared to this man, he was nothing special. It is true that there are always people who are better than you. Thinking that this was her husband, Xia Yuxi felt a sense of pride in her heart. She raised her hand and wanted to touch the man's face, but suddenly her wrist was grabbed. The next moment, Xia Yuxi felt a piercing pain in her wrist, as if even her bones were about to be crushed. She gasped several times, her face flushed red. It hurts Chengyuan, it's me, let go. Li Chengyuan suddenly opened his eyes, sat up, and turned on the light. The intense light shone down on him, and he squinted his eyes. When he opened his eyes, he saw Xia Yuxi's little face wrinkled in pain, and he slowly came back to his senses. He was really tired recently. During the short time that Xia Yuxi stayed in the bathroom, he actually fell asleep and had a short dream. He dreamed that someone was trying to take off the mask on his face. He grabbed the man's wrist, but heard Xia Yuxi's cry of pain, and he suddenly woke up. What are you doing? He looked unhappy. Xia Yuxi suddenly came back to her senses and retracted her hand. I. She stammered and couldn't make any sense. She couldn't say that she saw his face was so handsome when he was sleeping, so she wanted to try the feel of it. Li Chengyuan let go of her hand. What do you want to do while I'm asleep? Chapter 21. You are domestic violence. Xia Yuxi bit her lip and said nothing. She just lowered her eyes and looked at her wrist. There was already a circle of red marks on it, and it still hurt. Li Chengyuan looked at her, who looked as if she had suffered a great injustice, and his hard heart softened unconsciously. He lowered his voice and said, Let me see, I want to see how badly you're hurt. Xia Yuxi extended her right hand to him. My wrist was red at first, but now it has turned blue. I guess it will be black when I wake up tomorrow. Xia Yuxi bit her lip and accused, Li Chengyuan, you are domestic violence. After a pause, she muttered again, It's not like I want to have my period. The corner of Li Chengyuan's lips twitched. Did she think he pinched her on purpose to hurt her because she didn't satisfy him? Oh. What a rich imagination. He held her hand carefully and stroked the back of her hand with his fingertips. Under the bright light, her palms were as white as jade, smooth and delicate, and her fingers were slender and very beautiful. She looks like a young lady who has never been involved in worldly affairs, and not like the Xia family, a family that people want to avoid. His eyes moved upwards and saw the pinch marks on her wrist, which seemed to be very serious. He frowned and said, Why are you so fragile? Are you made of water? He didn't use much force at all, otherwise he would have easily broken her wrist. Haven't you heard that women are made of water? Xia Yuxi stiffened her neck in anger. Li Chengyuan was stunned. His little wife was always obedient in front of him. She agreed with everything he said like a little white rabbit. Only when she was in front of his other identity could her strong will and wildness be seen. Li Chengyuan found it very interesting. He raised his eyes to look at her. Don't come near me when I'm asleep in the future. I understand. Xia Yuxi nodded. The housekeeper came in with the family doctor and examined Xia Yuxi. It's not a big problem, just apply the ointment for a few days. Li Chengyuan waved his hand and asked everyone to leave. Li Chengyuan pulled Xia Yuxi to sit on his lap. His long arm passed through her arms from behind her waist and hugged her, took away the cotton swab, and took the ointment from her hand with his other hand. Stretch out your hand. The ointment was applied to the wrist, it felt cool and the original burning pain disappeared a lot. Xia Yuxi, thank you. After a while, the housekeeper knocked on the door and said that dinner was ready. Xia Yuxi pushed Li Chengyuan downstairs. The table was filled with delicious delicacies and the aroma was fragrant. Xia Yuxi pushed Li Chengyuan to the main seat, helped him adjust the height of the wheelchair, and then sat down opposite him. She glanced at the dishes on the table, and when she saw a plate of rabbit meat, her eyes lit up. The fragrant rabbit meat is coated with a layer of chili powder, which looks very appetizing. Xia Yuxi has always loved spicy food. She watched Li Chengyuan move his chopsticks, and immediately picked up the rabbit meat and stuffed it into her mouth. But just as she reached her lips, she heard the man's cold voice. Lay down. Xia Yuxi paused, raised her eyes and looked at him, puzzled. What's wrong with Chengyuan? Li Chengyuan frowned. Can't you see there's so much chili powder on it? Well, I like spicy food. Xia Yuxi said. The more chili peppers the better. Are you still eating chili peppers during your period? Do you want to have a stomachache to death at night? Li Chengyuan's face became even uglier. Xia Yuxi was stunned. Is he concerned about himself? She looked at Li Chengyuan, who had an unpleasant expression on his face, then at the fragrant rabbit meat, bit her lower lip, and said, Chengyuan, can I just have a bite? Li Chengyuan stared at her. The girl pursed her lips and looked pitiful. If he understood correctly, she was acting coquettishly towards him. 1 month after their marriage, Xia Yuxi showed him for the first time a look that was so tender and protective that his hard heart softened a little involuntarily. Chapter 22, Punishment for Failure. However, he did not indulge her. Li Chengyuan tightened his grip on the red wine glass slightly. Xia Yuxi, the reason why people are human is that they can control their desires. If they are controlled by their desires, what is the difference between them and animals? Doing things without considering the consequences will only lead to a miserable death. Xia Yuxi looked at him aggrievedly. Oh. She put down her chopsticks. Li Chengyuan went even further. Take it away. The servant quickly stepped forward and took away all the spicy food in front of Xia Yuxi, and even replaced the chopsticks that were dipped in chili powder with a new pair. Xia Yuxi. She lowered her head and ate the white rice in the bowl, but it was tasteless. Give the madam a bowl of chicken soup. Li Chengyuan ordered. The maid hurried into action. Xia Yuxi drank a bowl of chicken soup in a depressed mood, ate some vegetables and white rice, and then stood up. She stretched out her hand and covered her lower abdomen. Chengyuan, my stomach hurts, I'm going back first. Sit down. Li Chengyuan certainly knew what she was thinking. He insisted on correcting her habit of eating spicy food during her menstrual period. He wouldn't say a word about how you usually eat. Xia Yuxi had no choice but to sit down and grit her teeth slightly. This man is so domineering. This was the first time they had such a conflict after being married for a month. Xia Yuxi couldn't help but think of Li Yining, who was always obedient to her. She shook her head again. No matter how obedient he is still a scumbag. After dinner, return to the room. Li Chengyuan held her soft hand. She squatted in front of him and looked up at him with her extremely beautiful face. The man ordered in a stiff tone, you are not allowed to eat spicy food during your period. Do you understand? Xia Yuxi nodded, I understand. If you can't do it, I will punish you. Li Chengyuan said suddenly. Xia Yuxi was about to stand up, but when she heard this, her back stiffened and she looked at the man, a little at a loss. Punish? What kind of punishment? Li Chengyuan looked at her. The girl had a dazed look on her face, her lips slightly parted. She was standing up, just in time for Li Chengyuan to see the scenery inside her collar. His breathing became heavier and he hugged her tightly. Xia Yuxi was caught off guard and sat down on his legs. Before she could react, the man bit her lips lightly. The slight pain brought her back to her senses and she realized that their current posture was wrong. She immediately supported the man's chest with both hands and tried to get down, but the man's hands around her waist did not loosen. Chengyuan, I'm having my period. Xia Yuxi didn't know what she was thinking when she suddenly blurted out this sentence. Li Chengyuan stared at her with clear eyes. I know, I am a human, not an animal, and I know how to control my behavior. His words have a meaningful meaning. Xia Yuxi said unconvincedly, I didn't eat spicy food just now. Then you'd better be more self-disciplined in the future. Li Chengyuan said. He asked Xia Yuxi to stand up. Xia Yuxi bit her lip, of course I can. The man looked at her with deep eyes, speechless. Xia Yuxi went to the bathroom to wash up. When she finished washing up and went out, Li Chengyuan was no longer in the bedroom. The lights in the room were off, too, except for the lamp on the bedside table. Xia Yuxi walked over and was about to lie down when she noticed a bowl of brown sugar water on the cabinet. The porcelain bowl was very beautiful and crystal clear under the light. There was a note under the bowl. Xia Yuxi sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed, holding the brown sugar water in one hand and took a sip. The water temperature was just right. She picked up the note with the other hand and saw a few words written in a flamboyant-style study, and the man's handwriting was vigorous and powerful, with sharp strokes. Judging from his handwriting, one could tell that he must be difficult to get along with, and it turned out to be true. Chapter 23 Married? After Xia Yuxi finished drinking the brown sugar water, she rinsed her mouth and lay down. She always feels a little tired during her period, so she fell asleep quickly. When Li Chengyuan came back, it was almost 12 o'clock. The bedside lamp was still on, the bowl was empty, and the note was still there. The girl lay flat on the bed. Her already fair skin was almost translucent under the orange light, making her look even more hydrated and beautiful. Her light brown curly hair was lazily scattered on the pillow, and her eyelashes were long and curled, like a small brush, casting a faint silhouette under her eyelids. This face, with delicate and generous features, is not the kind of beauty that comes from a small and beautiful girl, but more like a lady from a prominent family. Her beauty is natural and gorgeous. Any man who sees her for the first time will have only two words in his heart: stunning. He looked at her quietly for a long time, his eyes dark, with countless emotions intertwined in his heart. Finally, he slowly lowered his head and placed a kiss on the girl's delicate lips. In the next few days, Li Chengyuan still went out early and came back late. They couldn't even see each other. Xia Yuxi just stayed at home reading. Xia Yuxi received another call from Wang Shanshan. Yuxi, Li Yining suddenly called me and asked me if you were really married. What's going on? Wang Shanshan was surprised. Xia Yuxi was surprised. Li Yining asked you. Yes, it's inexplicable. Didn't you just break up with him? Why are you going there and marrying him? Said Wang Shanshan. Xia Yuxi held the phone in silence. She was wondering whether to tell Wang Shanshan that she was married. By the way, Yuxi, have you been to the hospital? Wang Shanshan asked again without waiting for Xia Yuxi to answer. Wang Shanshan didn't need Xia Yuxi's answer either. She felt in her heart that Li Yining was talking nonsense about Xia Yuxi being married. What hospital? Xia Yuxi didn't follow her change of topic. Wang Shanshan, it's just to go to the hospital to repair the hymen, you haven't gone yet. Xia Yuxi tightened her grip on the phone. Should she go? Wang Shanshan said, Yuxi, I advise you to go there as soon as possible. Wang Shanshan comforted Xia Yuxi while rolling her eyes. Rich people don't want a second-hand product. Xia Yuxi is like a blockhead. It's a waste of such a stunning face. After Wang Shanshan finished speaking, she didn't want to chat with Xia Yuxi anymore, so she found an excuse and hung up the phone. Xia Yuxi sat at the desk holding her cell phone, unable to read a single word of the book in front of her. Xia Yuxi pondered alone for several hours. In the end, I decided to follow Wang Shanshan's advice. Although she didn't want to deceive Li Chengyuan, the truth was more cruel, wasn't it? The next day, after breakfast, Xia Yuxi changed into a very conservative set of clothes, a black shirt and black trousers, wrapping herself tightly. She tied her light brown curly hair into a ponytail, revealing her smooth and full forehead and graceful swan neck. She then put on sunglasses before going out. She asked the driver to drop her off at the mall entrance, and then she took a taxi to the hospital from another exit. The black luxury limited edition sedan moved slowly on the road. There was a red light ahead and the car stopped. Li Chengyuan sat in the spacious back seat, holding a document in his hand, scanning the text at a glance, with an indifferent expression on his handsome face. The woman sitting in the passenger seat was wearing a set of the latest Chanel suit, had a bright red bob haircut, and had delicate makeup. Her face was very beautiful and extremely charming, like a fairy who could suck people's souls away. The main point is her body, which is extremely hot. Men who have not seen much of the world will definitely have a nosebleed when they see her. She stared at Li Chengyuan in the back seat through the rearview mirror, silently watching his every move, her eyes involuntarily filled with admiration. Chapter 24 Pei Teng, what do you want to do? Li Chengyuan closed the document and threw it aside. He pinched his brows with his hand, turned to the window unconsciously, and his eyes suddenly paused. Although it was just a silhouette from behind, he still recognized it. The girl had a slender figure, a straight back, and her ponytail swung as she walked. The sunlight danced on her body, making her whole body sparkle. People coming in and out looked at her at the same time. It's Xia Yuxi. Li Chengyuan's eyes moved slightly, and he saw a few big words: Nancheng Sunshine Gynecological Hospital. He frowned. Why did she go to the hospital suddenly? Seeing Xia Yuxi's figure disappear, he immediately took off the black mask and put it on his face, while ordering, cancel the meeting at 10:30. Pei Jie turned around and looked at him, slightly surprised, but boss, that meeting is very important. Li Chengyuan had just returned to China and was busy from morning to night almost every day. This was the first time he had to cancel a meeting. Li Chengyuan didn't even glance at her. You're just being long-winded. Yes, boss. Pei Jie had no choice but to nod respectfully. Li Chengyuan opened the car door and got out, following Xia Yuxi. Pei Jie also got out of the car, followed by a group of bodyguards. Xia Yuxi walked into the hospital carrying her bag. She had made an appointment online. She pushed her sunglasses down and her palms were sweaty. She is very nervous. After all, she was only 20 years old. Even though she had been with Xi Yining for 2 years, the most intimate action between them was just a kiss on the forehead. Thinking of this, Xia Yuxi felt a sense of unwillingness and humiliation in her heart. Damn Pei Teng. It was because of him that she had to come to the hospital for that operation. With so many thoughts in her mind, Xia Yuxi finally went into the operating room. She closed the door on her own initiative and placed the list in front of the doctor. Her heart was pounding as if it was going to jump out of her throat. Hymen repair surgery. The doctor took the form and asked without raising his head. Yeah. Xia Yuxi nodded and subconsciously tightened the bag in her hand. Go lie down inside. The female doctor then looked up, glanced at her casually, and pointed her chin at the operating table separated by several curtains. Xia Yuxi nodded, her cheeks slightly red, and walked inside. After hesitating for a moment, she finally lay down. She took a deep breath, took off her sunglasses, put them in her bag, and slowly closed her eyes. She had no choice but to do this. Only in this way will she feel better, otherwise she will feel very wronged by Li Chengyuan. God has been cruel enough to him. When your eyes are closed, your other senses become extra sharp, especially your hearing. Who are you? What are you doing here? Get out. The female doctor's slightly angry voice reached Xia Yuxi's ears, but because of the curtain, she couldn't hear clearly what she said. Then, she heard the sound of a door closing, followed by heavy footsteps slowly approaching her. Her heart immediately rose, and her fingers pressing on the bed sheets tightened unconsciously. Li Chengyuan stood in front of the operating table, one hand inserted diagonally in his trouser pocket and the other hand holding the surgical form. He glanced at it and then glanced at Xia Yuxi on the operating table. He pulled the corner of his lip and said sarcastically, "What? You want to repair your hymen and lie to Li Chengyuan that you are still a virgin?" Xia Yuxi's brain buzzed and she immediately opened her eyes. What she saw was the man's black mask and his black eyes full of mockery. She sat up in bed instantly. Pei Teng. She looked at the man who suddenly broke in astonishment, and huddled at the head of the bed. Why are you here? What do you want to do? Chapter 25 Brain Hole. He suddenly broke into the operating room, making the already nervous Xia Yuxi even more confused. Questioning him was almost an instinctive reaction. Li Chengyuan raised his lips, and his whole body immediately exuded a rogue nature. He supported himself on the operating table with one hand. Oh, are you so afraid of me? I. Xia Yuxi got her bag in a panic, took out the anti-wolf spray she bought online, and tilted her head up stubbornly. I'm not afraid of you. As she spoke, she raised the pepper spray and pointed it at Li Chengyuan, in a defensive posture. Her heart was about to jump out of her throat, but she pretended to be very confident. She raised her voice, Pei Teng, I tell you. If you dare to touch me today, I will not let you go. Li Chengyuan's eyes narrowed dangerously. R. The man stretched out his arm, and along with her scream, the small bottle in her hand fell into his hand. He opened the bottle cap with interest and pressed it towards the air. In an instant, a pungent smell filled his nostrils. It's a mixture of chili and mustard. Cough. Xia Yuxi started coughing due to choking. This anti-wolf spray has extremely high sales and its effect is naturally excellent. Li Chengyuan deliberately pointed the bottle at Xia Yuxi, pressed his thumb on the switch, and said jokingly, Is that so? Do I have to spray it into my eyes for it to be effective? Before he finished speaking, Xia Yuxi immediately reached out to protect her face and yelled in despair, Pei Teng, what do you want to do? Li Chengyuan withdrew his hand, and the teasing in his eyes was replaced by coldness. He said in a cold voice, Go back. R. Xia Yuxi moved her hand slightly away and looked at him through her fingers. What do you mean? I told you to go home immediately. Li Chengyuan grabbed her wrists, pressed her legs with his long legs, and pressed down with his chest, pressing her down on the narrow operating table so that she couldn't move. He said coldly, What kind of repair surgery? Is there something wrong with your brain? His eyes beneath the black mask were full of disgust. What era is this? Is he the kind of person who is so corrupt that he has a virgin complex? Besides, she had already given her first time to him. Isn't this suffering in vain? You? Xia Yuxi was originally afraid of him, but when he scolded her like that, she instantly got angry and wanted to struggle, but couldn't, so she yelled back, Is there something wrong with my brain? It's all because of you, you bastard. Otherwise, why would I come here? Pei Teng, do you think this is fair to Chengyuan? All this was due to him, and he even had the nerve to scold her. What do you mean? What do you mean? I gave my first time to another man. Do you think it's fair to Chengyuan? Pei Teng, you are Chengyuan's best friend, but what did you do to him? Doesn't your conscience hurt? Or has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Don't you think it's miserable enough for him to sit in a wheelchair? Xia Yuxi was so angry that she stiffened her neck and glared at him with red eyes. Li Chengyuan was stunned. Was she suffering this unprovoked punishment just to consider her own feelings? Then there was no way he would let her do it. He tightened his grip on her wrist. Stupid woman, even if you are repaired, you still gave me your first time, what difference does it make? Xia Yuxi's pupils shrank, but she was speechless. What he said is true. Because it was the truth, Xia Yuxi became even angrier. She was almost driven crazy. She lowered her head and bit the man's arm, but the man quickly retracted his arm, so she only bit his sleeve. When she was about to exert more force, her jaw was firmly grasped by the man. She had no choice but to open her mouth. The man's tall body pressed her down. Are you addicted to biting me? Their bodies were pressed together without a gap. Xia Yuxi smelled the faint mint scent on him and ignored the pain in her jaw. She couldn't help but blurt out, Chengyuan. Chapter 26, He must be very ugly. Li Chengyuan was stunned for a moment, his eyes narrowed behind the mask, and he said coldly, Look carefully, I am not Li Chengyuan. He was sure that he did not reveal any flaws and Xia Yuxi would not be able to see any clues. I know, the smell on you is similar to Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi said softly. Are you surprised? We have been good brothers for 10 years. The man pulled the corner of his lip sarcastically. Xia Yuxi looked at him steadily. Everything he did showed that he was a shameless and lawless bastard. As for Li Chengyuan, he was overbearing, cold, and liked to keep a straight face, but he would occasionally care about her and would never bully her like this. Xia Yuxi suddenly laughed, with a bitter smile on her lips and red eyes. Good brothers for 10 years. You are not worthy of being Chengyuan's friend. I feel sorry for him having a friend like you. Heartbroken. A strange feeling slipped through Li Chengyuan's heart, just like that night when Xia Yuxi told him, who was wearing a mask, that she had never disliked him. The strange feeling was exactly the same. Feeling distressed. Oh? Are you in love with that cripple? It's only been over a month, why are you so careless? Li Chengyuan suppressed his feelings, showed sarcasm on his face, and twitched the corners of his lips in disdain. I don't allow you to say that about Chengyuan. Xia Yuxi instantly exploded, so what if he's disabled? He's much better than most men with normal bodies. He goes out early and comes back late every day, works hard and is positive. So what if I fall in love with such an excellent man? He is my husband, can't I love him? What does it have to do with you? At this moment, Xia Yuxi was like a little wildcat with its fur standing on end, with her claws stretched out and a ferocious look on her face, defending her husband Li Chengyuan very much. It seemed as if the man in front of her said another bad word about Li Chengyuan, she would immediately pounce on him and bite him to death. Li Chengyuan stared at her with a deeper look in his eyes. It turned out that in her heart, he was actually an excellent person. His little wife actually thinks so highly of her. Li Chengyuan couldn't help but curl the corners of his lips slightly. Let me go. Let me go, you bastard. A friend's wife should not be bullied. You beast. Let me go. Seeing that he was just staring at her, Xia Yuxi struggled hard. What a ghost, she ran into this bastard even when she came to the hospital. The struggle was in vain, and Xia Yuxi suddenly stopped. The next moment, her eyes lit up. Pei Ting's face was so close that as long as she reached out her hand, she could take off the mask on his face. She would be able to see the true face of this man. Thinking of this, Xia Yuxi acted quickly. She immediately raised her hand and her fingertips touched the edge of the mask. She didn't know what material it was made of, but it was very soft and felt just like skin. When she was about to make another move, the man narrowed his eyes dangerously and immediately tilted his head back, away from her fingers. At the same time, he immediately loosened his hand that was around her slender waist and grasped her wrist, tightening it hard. I said, not everyone can see my face. His tone was cold, and his whole body exuded a strong sense of oppression. He didn't look like a gangster just now, as if he was joking with Xia Yuxi. The man's eyes were too sharp, and she felt a chill running up her spine involuntarily. However, her plan failed, and she felt more angry. Xia Yuxi moved her wrist but couldn't. She glared at him fiercely. Heh. You also know that you are not worthy of being seen, so you cover your face. I think you must be very ugly. Chapter 27. Please, let me go. Li Chengyuan, provocation doesn't work on me. Let go. Xia Yuxi struggled again. When she couldn't get free, she immediately lowered her head and tried to bite. Li Chengyuan quickly let go of his hand, a little annoyed. Are you born in the year of the dog? The last time she bit me, I had to apply ointment for several days before it healed, and there are still faint marks from the teeth on my arm. Xia Yuxi rolled her eyes at him. She wanted to go out immediately, brushing the man's arm as she walked out. Stop. Li Chengyuan ordered coldly. What's the matter, President Pei, do you have any other instructions? Xia Yuxi stopped and looked back slightly. A little impatient. Bang! Li Chengyuan stretched out his long arms, pressed her against the wall in an instant, and looked down at her. They were very close, his breath on her forehead, and the atmosphere was somewhat ambiguous. Xia Yuxi tightly grasped her bag, her eyelashes fluttering, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes, and she turned her face away. What do you want to do? What do you think? Li Chengyuan asked instead of answering, lowering his head dangerously. The atmosphere is even more ambiguous. Xia Yuxi was horrified and reached out to push him, but the man's chest seemed to be made of iron and steel. No matter how hard she pushed, he remained motionless. She was a little discouraged, raised her eyes to look at him, and softened her tone. Pei Teng, I beg you, let me go. With your status, what kind of woman do you want to find? I am Chengyuan's wife, please let me live a good life with him, okay? In the face of power, she could only bow her head. Then she should just bow her head. Li Chengyuan stared at her, seeing the obedience on her face and the unwillingness in her eyes, he couldn't help but pull the corner of his lip. His little wife actually knew how to judge the situation. She was obviously unwilling to bow her head, but at this moment she was acting like a little white rabbit. Very flexible. He found it so fun to tease her. He stared at her and said in a deliberately cold voice, don't talk nonsense to me. I just like Li Chengyuan's women. As long as I want, you can't refuse. You? Xia Yuxi was so angry that she stared at the sharp eyes under the black mask, clenched her teeth, but said nothing. She was obviously furious. Li Chengyuan was also very busy and had no time to flirt with her, so teasing her was enough. He threw out his purpose. He pinched her chin and said in a heavier tone, listen carefully. I don't have the time to deal with you now. You are not allowed to have the surgery. I will send someone to watch you 24 hours a day. If I find out that you secretly came here for reconstructive surgery. Having said that, Li Chengyuan paused deliberately, and his eyes under the mask flashed with a faint light that Xia Yuxi could not understand. How is it? Xia Yuxi couldn't help but follow up his question. I will sleep with you in front of Li Chengyuan. Li Chengyuan said in a cold voice. His tone was serious, letting Xia Yuxi know that he was not joking. Xia Yuxi's face suddenly turned pale. In front of Chengyuan. If that happens, Chengyuan will go crazy. How could this man be so cruel? He actually calls himself Chengyuan's friend. Har har, friend. Did you hear that? Li Chengyuan tightened his fingers slightly, forcing her to look up at him. However, the next moment, he met Xia Yuxi's red eyes, and his heart suddenly felt like it was being pinched by an invisible big hand, and it hurt. He shouted sternly, "Don't cry." Xia Yuxi's eyes became even redder, and she looked at him aggrievedly. Pei Teng, what did I do wrong? What did Chengyuan do wrong? Why do you have to treat me like this? Why do you have to humiliate Chengyuan like this? Chapter 28, Fool Around. For the first time, Xia Yuxi felt so desperate. When she saw it with her own eyes Li Yining being courteous to the number one socialite, she was angry, very angry, very angry. The loan shark came to the school to ask for money, saying that she couldn't pay it, so she would sell her to that kind of place to pay off the debt. She was scared, very scared. At this moment, all she felt was despair. She couldn't tell Li Chengyuan. Chengyuan was already miserable enough. If Pei Ting bit back at him, Chengyuan would be worse off than dead. She couldn't beat Pei Ting either. She was left with nothing but despair and helplessness. Seeing her aggrieved look, Li Chengyuan suddenly felt as if his heart was blocked by a ball of cotton, so uncomfortable that he could hardly breathe. Was he going too far in teasing her like that? His silly wife, she did not betray him, she belonged to him from beginning to end, innocent and clean. His tone softened involuntarily. Have you forgotten how painful it was that night? And who told you that you would bleed the first time? Couldn't you just fool Li Chengyuan when the time came? Why did you have to torture yourself? Xia Yuxi smiled bitterly. Fool? I don't want to fool. Pei Ting, Chengyuan is my husband, the person I will walk hand in hand with for the rest of my life, and the most important person in my future life. I don't want to fool him. Lifetime. The most important person. Li Chengyuan's back stiffened, and the hand that was pinching her chin suddenly loosened. He stepped back and looked at her steadily, with countless emotions intertwined and surging in his eyes. It's so annoying. You're so nagging. After a few seconds, he suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and looked disgusted. Xia Yuxi just turned her face and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Pei Teng, can I leave now? She looks so fragile that one can't help but want to hold her in his arms and cherish her. Li Chengyuan's heart ached slightly, but his tone remained firm. Remember what I said, if you dare to come to the hospital for surgery again, I will definitely do what I said. He couldn't let her suffer in vain. Xia Yuxi's shoulders trembled. She stared at him hatefully, but said obediently, I won't do it. This devil. Xia Yuxi believed that he would definitely do what he said. How dare she challenge him? But Chengyuan. Get out. Just as Xia Yuxi was thinking, she suddenly heard the sound of a man asking for a beating. She frowned, said nothing, turned around and walked towards the door. The doctor was no longer in the room. Xia Yuxi opened the door and saw a woman with an extremely gorgeous and enchanting appearance. The woman had been staring at the door, and when the door opened, their eyes met. The woman originally had a faint smile on her face, but when she saw that it was Xia Yuxi who opened the door, the smile on her face immediately disappeared. She glanced up and down at Xia Yuxi and nodded slightly as a greeting. Xia Yuxi frowned. My first reaction was that this woman is so beautiful and has a hot body. My second reaction was why this woman looked at me with such a cold look. Xia Yuxi recognized her. She would occasionally check the news and see Pei Ting. She would see this woman guarding him. She should be his assistant or something like that. When she looked up again, she saw a group of well-trained bodyguards in suits and leather shoes, standing in 2 rows filling the corridor. What a grand ceremony. Xia Yuxi secretly smacked her lips. She was about to leave when she suddenly heard chaotic and hurried footsteps. The footsteps were getting closer, and noisy sounds followed. Hurry! Mr. Pei is over there. We must get the exclusive today. Crack! Mr. Pei actually came to the gynecological hospital, and he came with a woman. This is big news. Crack. The reporters are here. Chapter 29. Don't want to leave. Xia Yuxi retracted her head almost reflexively and closed the door. What? You don't want to leave? Was your resistance just now just an act? Are you playing hard to get with me? Xia Yuxi was still in shock when a man's mocking voice sounded behind her. Li Chengyuan's heart, which had been disturbed by her few words, had returned to calm. He put his hands in his pockets, with a rogue smile on the corners of his lips. Xia Yuxi was very upset. The reporters are here, I can't get out. If she goes out now, she will definitely be photographed. With Pei Ting's influence, I'm afraid her entire family will be exposed. She and Pei Ting appeared in a gynecological hospital and an operating room at the same time. By then, she would never be able to clear herself of the guilt even if she jumped into the Yellow River. Oh. Li Chengyuan pulled the corner of his lips, but a hint of annoyance flashed in his eyes. These reporters are just like flies. They are everywhere. It's so annoying. After a pause, he said, I'm going to go out, you hide in the room, and you leave after I leave. Okay. Xia Yuxi nodded. This is the only way. Li Chengyuan glanced at her and walked out of the room with his long legs. Boss. Pei Jie nodded respectfully. Dozens of reporters were stopped 10 meters away by well-trained bodyguards. There was a lot of noise in the corridor. Is Mr. Pei really in there? Mr. Pei appears. Take a quick shot. As soon as they saw Li Chengyuan appear, they immediately acted like dogs seeing meat buns. They pressed the shutter button frantically and tried hard to push the bodyguards away and rush over. But it's all in vain. Mr. Pei, someone reported that you are in an operating room with a girl. Is she your girlfriend? Is she still in the operating room? Why did you come to the hospital? A reporter realized that it was impossible to rush over and immediately asked loudly. Mr. Pei, there were rumors before that you were interested in forming a marriage alliance with the Zhuo family, but recently Miss Xue Yanting and young Master Li have been interacting frequently, and it seems that there is no hope, so you changed your target. Could it be that the person in the room is Miss Mu? Mr. Pei. Before Li Chengyuan could answer, another reporter asked a question. The three major families in South City, the Li family, the Zhuo family, and the Mu family. Unlike Miss Xue Yanting, the Mu family protected their only daughter very well, and only a few family elders had seen Miss Mu. I heard that this year I have reached the age to get married. Instead of marrying into the Zhuo family, marrying into the Mu family is also a very good choice. TSK. Li Chengyuan put one hand in his trouser pocket, staring at the reporter coldly, and sneered, I want to marry Xue Yanting. Are you blind or am I? That woman is so ugly, why would I marry her to decorate the blog? After he finished speaking, there was silence for a few seconds, and then there was an uproar. Ugly? Is Miss Xue Yanting ugly? Although she is not a beauty, she still has some looks, right? The key is that she has a good temperament. Ms. Xue is very beautiful. Mr. Pei has such high standards. How stunning must the woman in the room be? Is the person inside Miss Mu? Phut. Pei Jie couldn't help laughing. The boss's tongue is so sharp that it makes people bow down to him. Li Chengyuan glanced coldly at the reporters, turned around and went back to the room. Xia Yuxi stood by the door, trying hard to listen to the noise outside, but it was so noisy that she couldn't hear clearly. Suddenly, the door opened. She was originally leaning against the door panel, and when the door opened, she was pushed back a step. Chapter 30. Let's go out together. Seeing that it was the man turning back, she was stunned for a moment, then immediately stepped back and kept a distance from him. Pei Ting, why are you back? Li Chengyuan folded his arms, leaned lazily against the door, and stared at her. The reporters already know you're in there. If I leave, you'll be caught by them immediately. What? What should we do? Xia Yuxi slightly widened her beautiful eyes, frowned, and wrinkled her little face. She really didn't check the almanac before going out today, and things happened one after another. How is she going to get out now? It's very simple, let's go out together. Li Chengyuan raised his chin slightly, and the smile on the corner of his lips became more and more rogue. Xia Yuxi was surprised. Go out together? Doesn't that mean telling others that I'm with you? Isn't it? Li Chengyuan curled his lips. Xia Yuxi. After a pause, Xia Yuxi softened her voice and said, Pei Ting, think of a way. We can't go out like this, otherwise Chengyuan and I won't be able to explain it. He is very suspicious. When he sees us appear together, he will have all kinds of thoughts. Now, she could only beg him. Suspicious. The man who originally had a smirk on his lips suddenly looked cold and frosty. Are you saying that Li Chengyuan is physically disabled, so his mind is also twisted? His expression suddenly changed, which scared Xia Yuxi. She took a few steps back and waved her hands hastily. No, it's not like that. What I mean is that Chengyuan is very sensitive. If we go out together, he will definitely be suspicious. After all, I can't explain why I am with you. The man's expression eased a little. Since she was always thinking about him, he didn't bother with her. Come here. Li Chengyuan waved at her. What? Xia Yuxi looked at him warily. I'll take you out. Li Chengyuan said. No. We can't go out like this. Xia Yuxi waved her hands anxiously. Damn it. I spoke to him so much in a nice and gentle manner, but he turned a deaf ear to it. Li Chengyuan had no patience, so he walked over and pulled her into his arms. What are you doing? Xia Yuxi shouted immediately and reached out to push him. She was really afraid of the man in front of her. His moods change constantly and he can do anything shameless. It would be strange if she wasn't afraid of him. Don't make noise. Li Chengyuan frowned, pressed her head into his arms, and said concisely, I'll carry you out, and you bury your face in my arms. This way, no one will know who you are. Understand? Carry you out. Xia Yuxi immediately shook her head. I don't want you to hug me. Let me go. Li Chengyuan frowned and grabbed her arm, his voice cold. I'll give you two choices. 1, I'll carry you out. 2, I'll leave and you can do whatever you want. Xia Yuxi stared at the black mask on his face, and saw the impatience in his eyes. She bit her lip, weighed the pros and cons, and then said, then, trouble you. It seems that this is the best way. But in her heart she was extremely resistant to being so close to this man. Li Chengyuan said nothing more. He hugged Xia Yuxi in his arms like a princess. Xia Yuxi bit her lip, looking a little unhappy. Hold your hands around my neck. Xia Yuxi's face became even uglier. She gritted her teeth and reached out to grab the man's strong shoulders. Li Chengyuan stared at her and knew what she was thinking. He curled the corners of his lips, turned around, and walked out with his long legs. Wait a moment. Xia Yuxi suddenly spoke.